This happened in the fall of 2019, on a drive I'd made 100 times before. I was 24, half asleep at the wheel, and I pulled into the same rest stop I always did, never once thinking it would be any different than any other night. It was almost 9, already dark, cold enough to see my breath. The lot was nearly empty, just a couple of trucks parked way off at the far end, and one light over by the vending machines that flickered in a way I didn't think twice about. I went in, used the bathroom, and fed my card into the coffee machine 3 times before it finally took. It was such an ordinary moment, the kind you forget the second it's over, except this one I'd end up replaying for years. That's when I noticed it. A dark sedan, parked 2 spots down, that hadn't been there when I pulled in. Engine off. Nobody visible inside. I told myself someone was probably just in the bathroom too. I got in my car and dug through my bag for a charger, and when I looked up, a man was standing near the front of my car. Not close, maybe 20 feet, just standing there, facing me, like he'd been waiting. I pulled out slow, and he didn't move. He just turned his head to track the car as I drove past him toward the exit. I remember thinking it was strange, but I didn't want to be the person who assumes the worst about a stranger for no reason. 10 minutes down the highway, headlights appeared behind me, matching my speed a little too closely. I slowed down to let them pass. They slowed down too. I sped up. So did they. Then my phone rang. Unknown number, no name. I didn't answer. It rang again 30 seconds later, and I still didn't pick up, my eyes flicking between the screen and the road, and the headlights that never seemed to fall back. The car behind me flashed its high beams twice, dropped back, then closed the distance again. My hands were sweating on the wheel. What was I even going to tell the police, that a car was behind me on a public highway? I took a random exit just to see what would happen. The car took it too. There was a closed gas station at the top of the ramp, and I pulled in fast, parked under the one working street lamp, doors locked, engine still running. The other car slowed as it passed the entrance, just enough for me to see the driver's face turn toward me, and then it kept going, taillights disappearing back down the ramp into the dark. I sat there for 20 minutes before I could make myself drive home. I was 24, driving home alone from a work trip, when I pulled off at a rest stop just to stretch my legs. It was 1 in the morning, pouring rain, and I had no idea that stopping there was about to become the worst decision of my night. The lot had exactly one other vehicle, an RV parked crookedly across 2 spots near the exit. I remember thinking that was odd, but not alarming. People sleep in RVs all the time. I parked closer to the building, under the light, and went inside. Just a quick trip through the rain for a bag of chips and a bathroom break, the kind of stop I'd made 100 times without a second thought. This time, something about the empty lot felt different, though I couldn't have said why. When I came back out, the RV's side door was hanging open, not wide, just cracked, swinging a little in the wind. No lights on inside that I could see. I told myself it probably just hadn't latched, and got in my car. That's when I heard it. 3 knocks on my passenger window, slow and deliberate, spaced about a second apart. I froze completely, every instinct telling me not to look, and not to move. A man was standing there, soaked through, no jacket, just staring at me through the glass. He knocked again, harder, and said something I couldn't make out over the rain and my own heartbeat pounding in my ears. I threw the car into reverse and he stepped back, hands raised, like he was trying to look harmless. I didn't wait to find out if he was. I pulled out of that lot faster than I should have on wet pavement. A mile down the road, I saw headlights pulling out of the rest stop behind me. I told myself it could be anyone. But the light stayed with me exit after exit, never closing the gap, never falling back. I got off at the next lit exit and pulled into a 24-hour diner lot, right under a security camera, and just sat there, watching the road, waiting to see what would pass. The headlights slowed as they passed the exit ramp, and I saw it was the RV moving just slow enough that I knew whoever was driving had seen exactly where I'd gone. It didn't turn in. It just kept going until the taillights disappeared. I sat in that parking lot for almost an hour before I trusted myself to drive again. I never called the police that night, and part of me still doesn't know why, because on paper, nothing had even happened. Two years ago, 3 days into a cross-country move, I pulled into a rest stop that felt safer than any of the others, busy, sunlit, full of families and ordinary noise. I had no idea that normalcy was about to become the most unsettling part of the whole story. It was early evening, still light out, the lot busier than any stop I'd made, a handful of cars, kids running near the picnic tables, the smell of someone's fast food drifting across the pavement. It felt, for once, completely safe. I went inside just to splash water on my face and grab a coffee I didn't really want but needed. Ordinary, unremarkable, the kind of stop I wouldn't have remembered at all, if not for what was waiting when I got back outside. There was a folded piece of paper tucked under my windshield wiper. I figured it was a flyer, an ad, nothing worth a second look. Something made me open it anyway. It had my license plate number written on it, and underneath, one line, "You should be more careful about who's watching you." I stood there in that busy, sunlit lot, and felt something cold settle into my stomach that didn't match the scene around me at all. I looked around at the families, the older couple loading their trunk, nothing that stood out at all. And yet I'd never felt more exposed standing in a crowd, my isolation somehow sharper for being surrounded by so many people who noticed nothing. I got in my car, locked the doors, and just sat there for a minute, trying to talk myself down, telling myself it had to be some kind of prank meant for somebody else. An hour later, back on the highway, my phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. My eyes stayed on the road, but my mind was already somewhere else, dreading what I'd find when I finally looked down. It was a photo of my car, taken from behind, timestamped 10 minutes before I'd even gone inside. I read that timestamp 3 times because it didn't make sense. Whoever sent it had been watching me before I ever stepped out of the car. I called my sister on speaker, hands shaking too much to hold the phone properly, and she told me to get off at the next exit with a police station. I drove faster than I should have, her voice the only steady thing in the car. The officer at the desk looked at the note and the photo and said there'd been similar reports along that stretch of highway, mostly women traveling alone, never anything proven. He told me to keep the note, keep my doors locked, and consider a different route home.